And I go, dude, 2,000 feet, I'm jumping out of the airplane. As soon as I cleared the weather, I was like, all right, man, I'm getting out. And that, you'd think that decision is tough, but it was a very simple decision, like life changing. But like when it's time, there is no other option. Like everything else has been burned out. So it was like, all right, I'm getting out. And it was like, do, 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 and off we go. And that was, a lot of people talk about like temporal distortion. And I remember going up the rails and all that. It's like, I didn't have that. Like, when I decided I got my good body position and pulled the handle, I did not disconnect my quick disconnect on the hammock. So I've ops tested that one. It works as advertised and didn't hurt my neck. But like got into a good body position, pulled the handle. I'm sure my eyes were closed because I don't remember seeing anything until like boom, opening shock, and I'm under the parachute. And I run through the parachute drill. Canopy was good. I think I had one little twist that rapidly came out. And I lift my visor up, throw my mask off, disconnect that, go through that checklist. I see my raft underneath me. I'm like, yes, the raft inflated. Check on the LPUs, dumbass, for that. But what was cool is I had turned 180 degrees from where the jet was going. I saw the canopy tumbling in the air. I literally saw like 5 specks of black. My pubs kit, my classified bag, the little shaving kit, my jerky bag, and like my helmet bag. Like I see like 4 or 5 little black things floating around, and I'm like, I just like the things you remember are amazing. And I was like, that's cool. And it was like back on target. But like the ejection, I wasn't hurt at all. And the other training piece, they teach us in combat survival, like get on your radio, turn on the Prick 112, do the hard 3 sends to start sending your GPS coordinates. And I do that in the parachute, which like I didn't think about it. I just did it. It was
you got out about 2,500 feet?
Yeah. So I had about 3 minutes in the parachute, about a minute or so. It ended up being about 3 minutes. But I pull the radio out. I start talking. I tell them like I'm okay, because that was the first time I thought about my wife, like through the whole thing. I knew that she, like I'd been around long enough, I know how this works. And I did not want her to he jumped out, we have no idea. So I was like, I'm okay. Here comes the water, I got to put the radio away. So I turn the radio off, put it back in my survival vest, and then get ready for splashdown. But that was conscious thought. I was like, Cheech, like, let her, no, I'm okay. Like, so that was big. Sorry. As we go through that. So like approaching the water. So I look down, I'm like, yep, this is happening. Hit the water, and it is the fastest I've ever gotten in a raft in all the years of my big plus size ass trying to get in a raft at water survival. Like, dude, I saw that, and I was in that raft in like 5 seconds, just whoop, right in. And I always tell this story because it's funny for all the young fighter pilots that are dippers and do it because they saw somebody else doing it and all that. I dipped for years and years and years. And I get in the raft and I see a can of Grizzly that was in my right G-suit pocket floating in the water about 10 yards away from my raft. And I literally thought about getting out of the raft to go get that can of chew. So yeah, that was funny, but like addictive. And then I realized I had another one in my left G-suit pocket that was zipped up. So I was okay. But like, that's the funny shit you think about, like when things are going down. So I got to the raft. So that was crazy.
Yeah, wow. And I mean, you got emotional. I got chills thinking about it. It's literally the worst nightmare for multiple reasons here. But two, when something like this happens, everything goes dark, and I can completely empathize, like thinking about my wife, my family, not knowing, especially in that environment where you're in the middle of the freaking ocean, like.
Yeah, we've lost buddies before. I mean, Trojan was a good buddy of ours, and like the horrible story and the just life event that happened for them. Like we've seen how that can tear people up, and that's what I was trying to avoid. Like I had no idea how I was going to end up, but I knew at this point I was okay. So like there was a glimmer of hope. I didn't want it to be like I love military history, and like you read dudes that got shot down in Vietnam. Like, yeah, we saw Fireball. Like, have no
Yeah.
idea. And are they a POW? Were they a mort? Whatever. And then 8 years later they get released to the Hanoi Hilton, and their wife was remarried, and kids don't know them, and shit like that. So, like, I
Yeah.
wasn't thinking at that level, but I was just like, man, I just want her to know that I made it through the first part of this crazy event. So.
What was the tanker doing? Did it continue on, or did they hang in a cap and really?
So we always talk about like the tanker gases for the dude on the ground, right? And we did exactly what we talked about. So that was the next hard part. So I'm in the raft. I called him up. The tanker became the on-scene commander. We were doing a bridge, so there was dudes from Kadena that took off with us at Misawa, and then Eielson tankers were meeting us halfway and then peeling back. So they had a pretty good amount of gas, and we had some fallout, so we only had a 4-ship instead of a 6-ship, so we had more gas. But at that point, Cheech is like, dude, we are going back to Misawa. Like, we're going to skyhook back to Misawa, and we got to go. So again, on the radio, I was like, hey, Cheech, tell Kristen I love her. And they turn around and they're gone. So now it's me and the tanker in my one-man raft. And the tanker was awesome. And I, like 5 years later, went to a buddy of mine's weapons school graduation when I was the commander, went up there. And a dude walks up to me at the Nellis Oak Club. And he's like, hey, are you Fester? And I'm like, yeah, like Fester. He goes, dude, I was the tanker pilot on your ejection. I was like, holy shit. Let's go to the bar. I'll get you a drink
Yeah.
all night long. And like we talked about it. He and his wife were both tanker pilots. They were on different airplanes, but like another cool tangent. But the 3-ship had to leave back to Misawa. The tanker becomes the on-scene commander. And kind of like combat, every 30 minutes, I'm checking in. Here's my new coordinates. I'm okay. When are you guys picking me up? Like, that was it, right? I asked that a couple times, and then it worked out where a couple hours in at that point, they let me know, hey, there is a U.S. cargo ship about 100 miles away from you. I'm like, oh, cool, 100 miles. Like, they'll be here in 10 minutes, right? No, not at 14 knots. And it takes them literally an hour to slow down and turn around. So they got the approval from their corporate Matson, thank you, Matson Shipping Company, to turn around and come get me. But then there was a naval or a research vessel, I call it a fishing vessel, Japanese fishing vessel, that was doing research on salmon, and they had a Zodiac. So they're the ones that actually, they get there as the same time as the cargo, and they're the ones that pick me up. But there's some good stuff before that. But yeah, initially I'm alive, I'm in the raft. I turned on my GPS that I had, my other portable GPS. It fell off my leg in the big puddle of water of my big butt in the raft that was 3 inches too short for me. Immediately fried the Garmin GPS, but my Prick 112 worked great. Some other stuff didn't work that's supposed to when you jump out of an airplane that they figured out later. I'll leave that alone. But I had a radio, and they knew where I was at. So life was pretty good. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, talk to you in 30 minutes. And it became peaceful as soon as I knew there was somebody out there. And talking to the tanker overhead, I tell people I have the utmost respect for the mental fortitude that people who have been isolated for a long time, like isolation, Hanoi Hilton, I usually go back to that. Dudes that were in isolation for years, like I was in isolation for 6.5 hours, and I was talking to a tanker. And like, I don't know how I would have handled nighttime or 20-foot seas, because it was only 3 to 5 foot seas. So those are the two things that I am so grateful for. Because if they weren't there and I'm just bobbing around hoping it works out, like that's a completely different mental space to be in. But I trusted my country was going to come get me. So that was crazy, but it worked out. And then it was all kinds of fun stuff on the raft.
Also, we can talk about the raft. I do appreciate the isolation piece. Nowhere even close to this, right? But during like COVID, when I was still, flying around the world and spending 24 or 48 hours locked away in a hotel room, right, with room service, like whatever, life's not that bad. You can feel mind starting to change. And this is the day and age where you're connected via FaceTime. You got YouTube,
Yeah.
you got plenty of things to entertain yourself, not like really isolated. I can't imagine with like going back to SEER school. I know a lot of guys, not to go into too much detail, right? Like at the end, they get kind of emotional when it wraps up. I didn't really have that impact, I guess, because in my mind I was like, dude, I know I have a Delta flight on Saturday morning, and I
Yeah.
know this thing
They
is going to
can't
end,
keep me here. Yeah.
right? So I knowing that there is an end to it, for me, uh, made it a non-factor. If I did not know how this is going to play out, or is there going to be an end that's successful, I I would struggle with that. I know personally.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of where I was. I mean, I did the standard inventory. I'm like, oh, hey, look at all the stuff in here. And then you realize that you only got so many pouches of water and you see the little fishing hooks. And I'm like, man, Unbroken's a great book, phenomenal movie. Nothing compared to that guy's story. But I was like, here we go. Like, I'm going to be fishing to survive out here. And I was already in that. Like, I'm not going to quit. That never came across my mind. Like, not one time. I was like, I'm effed. It's over, right? Like never. It was cool. There is a way out of this, and it's just a matter of time. And it may be a while, but I'm glad it was only 6.5 hours because nighttime would have sucked. Multiple days or weeks, like bobbing around out there, that would have sucked. But the mind does do weird things with you. One funny story of the mind. About 5 hours into the raft, it is really cold. Sea fog has moved in. Visibility is like 100 meters. And I inflate the splash shields on my raft. And bone cold, 55-degree water. I'm a plus-size kid with some insulation, and I am like chattering teeth cold. Like it is bad. So I always laughed, like, you skinny triathletes, you're screwed if you ever where I'm at. But anyway, I hear something rubbing against the outside of my raft. And in my brain, it immediately goes to, like, that's a pretty abrasive. I was like, I think shark skins are pretty abrasive. Never touched a shark other than like SeaWorld. But I'm like, cool. There's a shark that's circling around my raft. I'm going to get eaten by a shark is where my brain went. And I was a kid under the blanket in a thunderstorm. Like I would not look outside of the glare shield or the splash shield. I did not want to know what was out there. I finally got the courage to do that. After I go, oh man, it's way too far north. It's too cold for sharks. I was like, there's no way. So logic kicks in again. Life's good. And then logic kicks in again. And I go, but there's a lot of killer whales around here. And I was like, cool. Now I'm going to get eaten by Shamu. And I finally look outside, and it's my seat kit, like little canvas bag that is rubbing the outside of my raft. And I grabbed that thing and put it inside my raft because I didn't want to hear that noise anymore. But like that's one example of just like your mind doing weird shit. And that was the only time I started going down weird paths of like what's trying to kill me now, and it was, I thought, a killer whale, but it ended up being my seat kit. So funny, but it wasn't funny at the time.
No. You mentioned obviously, yeah, that's one aspect in the raft. You said there's a couple other things prior to getting picked up. Is there anything worth highlighting there?
Yeah, so like running through all of your stuff, like prepping your inventory. Like if I get picked up, like I literally did. I was like, I am going to shoot every flare that I have. I'm going to set off every marker flare I have, sea dye, all that stuff. So whether it's prepare for a maritime rescue or in the raft, like it is like they teach you in survival school and resistance training, like affect your own rescue or escape, right? So I was 100% in on I am going to be the best survivor out here and start doing that. So in the raft, like 30 minutes, I'm checking that stuff. I'm prepping all my things. I was terrified to pull a knife out in my raft, but I needed to cut something. I forget what it was, but I didn't want to pull my knife blade out of my pocket on my G suit that I flew with all the time. And like I finally did, but like just terrified that I was going to poke a hole in the raft and then try to have to replace a raft like we do in water survival training with that little plug or whatever. So stuff like that. But the contact was the biggest piece. So they tell me initially, like, hey, you're okay. We're working to rescue. And then, hey, we got a ship within 100 miles. The ship is turned around. The ship's heading your way. It's going to be there in 4.5 hours. And I'm like, okay. So I set a watch, 30-minute alarm clock on my little Timex watch, and every 30 minutes would jump on GPS and jump on the radio and be like, hey, I'm here now. This is my coordinates. Talk to you in 30 minutes. Do you have any updates? Yep, they're on their way. Okay, sounds good. Talk to you in 30 minutes. So like that went on for a while. Had, calming, like sat there, had a couple dips in the, sitting there chilling, had to pee for height over this glare shield. Like, I mean, there's just all kinds of funny little stuff that happened that I remember vividly. That you're just like, okay, because I sure as hell wasn't getting out of that raft to go to the bathroom anywhere in that water. So I was like, it is what it is, man. Like, so that flight suit is. I still have that flight suit and all my stuff. They gave it to me after the safety board was done. They shipped it to me back here at Luke.
That's kind of cool.
When I was at Luke. So yeah, it was really cool to have all that stuff. Literally bailed the water out of my raft with my helmet, like all the things you hear about. So
yeah,
but that was crazy.
You mentioned, I mean, we kind of glossed over this thing. We joked about it yesterday because I always thought like wearing a poopy suit, and especially like South Carolina, when some days it's like 75, call it 77 degrees outside. But, the water temp's too cold, so you go fly over the water. I was like, I mean, I'm going to be using a piddle pack over the water, forget to zip things back up, punch out, and then I'm going to die angry because I was hot and miserable, like walking to the jet, flying the jet, and then I land in the water and freeze to death, So, like, man.
Yeah, and I vividly remember hanging in the parachute and pulling down on that zipper because I was just taking a piss before I jumped out. And I think I zipped it closed before I ejected, but then I made damn sure it was closed before I hit the water because, same thing. I was like, the last thing I need is 55-degree water with the direct access to the middle of my body. So
wouldn't
that was crazy. Yeah.
What transpired with the pickup?
So that was they really wanted me on a U.S. flagged vessel. So the cargo ship was what they wanted, but the cargo ship only had like that Tom Hanks movie where the sniper on the back of the thing, that little abandoned ship, little boat they have on those huge ships is the only thing they had. And they're like, we can get it off there, but we've never got it back on in open water. So that was why the Japanese vessel that had a little Zodiac, little like 3-man, 4-man powered boat thing, they came and got me. In the sea fog, this part is crazy. In the sea fog, 100-yard visibility or so, I hear a foghorn, and I'm like, sweet baby Jesus, like I'm gonna get through this, like, and then oh my God, I'm gonna get run over by a 700+ foot cargo ship, which is like, I have this. That's the ship that I got picked up on.
No kidding, that's cool.
Like. And no kidding, the Mike was the captain. It's the Manikai, Marine vessel Manikai. He gave that to me as I was getting off the ship later on. But anyway, so I get picked up I hear the foghorn. I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. And then I pull out my compass, and I don't know if you remember, like, which way is right. I had a 50-50 chance, and 90% of the time I get those wrong, but I got it right. So I'm like, turn to the right, port, starboard, have no idea. I was like, turn to the right. And then I hear the foghorn getting closer to me. I was like, cool, I guessed right. And when they popped out, the Japanese vessel, when it popped out of the sea fog, 150 yards probably away, like, I lit them up with every pin flare I had. I was shooting it right at the crow's nest, just pew, 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 one after another. And I'm like, I'm over here until I see the Zodiac hit the water and like they know where I'm at. And then I pop my flares, sea dye, all that stuff. So they pick me up, get in their raft. And I was a safety trained dude, so I knew they were going to want all my equipment and all that stuff if they could. So I like grabbed my knife and poked a hole in the raft, which I wouldn't have. I wish I'd have saved it so I could have used it later. But cut a hole in it, deflated it, put all that shit in the Zodiac. And at that point, the cargo ship was right there too. So we drive probably, I don't know, half a mile or something over to the cargo ship. They didn't want them real close to each other. And then the video I sent you is me getting on the embarkment ladder of the cargo ship. And they had some issue because the dude on the ladder later told me, he's like, yeah, they wouldn't take it out of gear. So they were like driving past the ladder, the Japanese Zodiac. Anyway, get on the cargo ship. And that's the first time, like, I get in the raft, the Zodiac, big sigh of relief. And then I get on that huge ass cargo ship. And I was like, all right, everything's going to be okay. Like, cool. And then spent like 3 days on that. And then handed off to a Coast Guard cutter, the Monroe, out of Kodiak, Alaska. Spent a night with them, and then took a Dolphin helicopter from the cutter supposed to go to King Salmon, but that was weathered in, so went to Dutch Harbor where they do all the deadliest catch stuff, which was pretty cool to see that. I literally got out of the helicopter and kissed the ground. And then Kong Howard, and our flight doc, who was the 14th flight doc, but it was a rainbow deployment. They met me there on a King Air C-12 out of Elmendorf and picked me up and then took me back to Elmendorf. Did all the post ejection X-rays and blood tests and all that stuff, which is funny. Blood test, a joke about that, because I may be the only dude that jumped out of an airplane and then drank a bunch of whiskey right after it, which is a side note. But I got on the cargo ship and they're like, "You probably need a drink," and I'm like, "No, man, I gotta do blood work and all that." And then I'm like, "Man, I'm in the middle of the North Pacific. There's no flight dock out here." I'm like, "Give me a whiskey."
That's been a long ride.
The captain and I proceeded to drink a few whiskeys. So anyway, but get back to Elmendorf, spend like one night there, and then C-17 back to Yokota, a Huey ride over to Atsugi, and then a C-40, which is like the Navy's little transport plane, up to Misawa a week later, and that's where I saw my family.
Man,
Yeah,
that's a wild,
pretty crazy.
That's a wild journey, and that's the understatement of the century there. That
Yeah.
Everyone targeted.